Hey everyone, this is for the Nikon photographers out there, and it's about an issue that one of my in person photography students brought up during a lesson last week. And it may sound like a common scenario that you've encountered as well. She was photographing her child playing in the backyard. She was in continuous autofocus, AFC, with a large, wide area, which is perfectly fine. And she was commanding autofocus, taking pictures, and as she was taking pictures, her dog kept running into the frame. Like not completely up into the camera, looking the camera lens like my dog does, but just kind of popping through and entering the autofocus area real quickly and then running off. And whenever that dog would touch that autofocus area, the camera would instantly transfer the focus over to the dog. And she kept taking pictures during this whole time. And now the dog was sharp and the child was blurry, which isn't what she wanted. So she was asking me if there was a way to make that focus lock stay on the child for a longer period of time. So I went into her camera's custom settings menu, the A group, and then looked at focus tracking with lock on, and it was set to 1, quick. And that's the problem, and that's what we're going to talk about in this video. And I do just want to remind you that if you ever have any questions about camera settings or things aren't behaving the way that you expected, please drop those in the comments and I'll consider doing a video about those. You can also check out the Nikon Z Photography Fundamentals course to learn everything about the technical aspects of photography using a Nikon camera. You can find that course at photocourses.link/NikonZ. Take 20% off of that course with the code TUBE20. So let's get into this focus tracking with lock on setting, which again, you'll find in the custom settings A group, and it's right at the top, either A3 or A4. And let's take a look at why 1 was giving her this behavior. 1 is labeled quick, which means that the camera will quickly transfer to something that enters that focus area while you are commanding autofocus. Watch here with this quick demonstration. I am in continuous autofocus. I am commanding autofocus on this ping pong ball off in the background. And I'm going to introduce another ping pong ball in between the camera and the one in the back. And with quick set, that number 1, the camera is going to instantly transfer the lock to that ball as soon as it enters the focus area. And then as soon as that ball leaves the focus area, it's going to go back to where it was focused previously. And that is that quick behavior. As soon as that new subject transits between me and whatever I was focused on, as it enters that autofocus area, it's going to transfer to the new subject, that new object entering that autofocus area. Now, this might be useful in like sports photography if you're not so concerned about staying locked on one particular player, but instead you'd rather be locked onto the player that is closest to the camera. So no matter who enters and leaves the frame, the camera is going to instantly transfer that lock to the closest player as soon as they enter that autofocus area. If you want to hang on to your subject as long as possible, then you're going to want to set 5 or delayed, meaning that there will be a delay when something comes in between you and your subject. The camera is going to pause for a second or two before going over to the new subject. Here again, we move that ball through the scene here very slowly, and the camera does not transfer lock. If we hold it there long enough, yeah, it'll transfer, but for a momentary transit like this, it's going to wait before transferring that lock. It's going to maintain that focus distance where our original subject was. Now, this could be great for something like if you're tracking birds and you're tracking a bird across the sky, you're panning that camera, and then a tree suddenly enters the frame between you and the bird. The camera is not going to instantly transfer the lock to that tree. It's going to stay locked at that distance where the bird was while you're panning. So that's the spectrum, and you have 5 options to choose here. Don't waste too much time trying to figure out which one of the 5 would be best. Just use 1 if you want a really quick transfer, 5 if you want to delay that transfer as long as possible, and then 3 for middle ground. And there are some gotchas for this. The first thing to know, and a common misconception, is that this doesn't have anything to do with the speed at which the focus changes when a subject moves towards you or away from you. Now, your subject could be moving very slow or very fast. What you set here has nothing to do with this. This is for a sudden, instantaneous change in focus distance when an entirely new subject enters your autofocus area. It has nothing to do with the speed at which the focus will change. There is a setting similar to that in the movie custom settings menu in the G custom settings group, but that's not what we're talking about here. And then the second gotcha is that if you are using 3D tracking mode or auto area autofocus mode, you're not going to have those quick options available to you. So if you have this set to 1 or 2, and then you go into 3D tracking or auto area, the camera is going to behave like 3. That's the fastest that it's going to transfer. It's not going to switch the setting to 3. It's just going to behave like 3. And then when you go into a different autofocus area mode, it'll go back to 1 or 2 if that's what you had it set to. The Z8 and the Z9 also have an additional setting here, which I can't record because I don't have a Z8 or a Z9 right now. But there's a subject motion setting, and you'll see either steady or erratic. And this just tells the camera what kind of motion that you're trying to track. If it's set to steady, as if you were panning during a bicycle race, then it's going to kind of ignore any erratic movement that it might see while you are steadily panning or tracking those subjects. You should set it to erratic though, like if you're photographing a room full of puppies and they're moving in every which direction, set it to erratic. So that's a few minutes on Nikon's focus tracking with lock-on settings and how fast you want the camera to transfer to a new subject while you are commanding autofocus in continuous autofocus mode. Please let me know if you have any other questions or comments about this setting. Don't forget to check out that Nikon Z Photography Fundamentals course. There are plenty of free previews in there that you can check out before purchasing the course. And if you do want to learn all about the technical aspects of photography using Nikon Z cameras, use that code TUBE20 for 20% off. Subscribe for more great tips like this every week, and we'll see you in the next video.